Welcome to Not Starving Artist, the podcast. I'm your host, Brooke Benson, money coach and equity actor. I am your financial cheerleader, here to help you build your financial confidence and have power over your money. The best part, no budgeting or bi-weekly paychecks required. I went from being a broke BFA grad having weekly panic attacks about money to a financially confident, wealth-building actor and business owner. Money gets to feel fun, simple, and sexy, and I am going to show you how. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. Let's talk about making more money today. And the title of this podcast is How to Make More Money and Still Have Time to Create Your Art. Why this is the podcast title is because I have noticed, and I've noticed this within myself and also within the artistic community, there is this pervasive fear around making more money equaling selling out, giving up your art, not having time, etc. And so what we do is we run from making more money, or we don't even allow ourselves to consider what it would look like to make more money. And when I mean more money, I mean like money that you couldn't fathom yourself making as an artist, right? That kind of money. We run from it because we're afraid that that will encroach on our artistry, which is like our whole reason for being on this planet, right? Like if you're an artist, it's because you can't fathom doing much else, right? But what I've also noticed is that this also causes us to run from financial stability, because what we equate with like more money, having a lot of money, abundance, we also conflate that with financial stability. And this comes back to the starving artist trope, right? Like the starving artist trope has told us that you will live a life of poverty, you will live a life of scraping by, you will live a paycheck to paycheck life in service of your art. And that's the exact trope, right? Welcome to Not Starving Artists if you're new here. The exact trope that my mission is to destroy. And so I want to talk you through how to think about how to create and keep sacred time and energy for your art, so that you are able to not only give yourself financial stability through other means of income, but then also you can then move past just the stability part and move into the abundance part, move into the more than enough part, right? Because at the end of the day, when you have more financial resources available to you, you're able to do more of your art. When you are not anxious about how you're going to pay rent next month, when a huge portion of your brain isn't constantly thinking about how you're going to pay your bills and how you're going to fund your next project, that mental capacity can go towards your creativity. That's the whole reason I'm a money coach. That's the whole reason I care about you and your money, is so you can do more art. And even if you don't self-identify as an artist, everyone's a creative, right? We are creative beings. But this is so that you can do more of what you feel you are meant to do on this planet, right? There is a select few people whose sole mission in this earth is money. I'm a money coach, and that's not even my sole mission, right? So let's get into it. This big fear around selling out, getting a 9-to-5, starting a business, taking on more hours at your current job, all of that is because of this I won't have time for my art anymore, or my capacity will be drained fear. So in order to tackle this fear, we have to show yourself that like the fear around I won't have time for my art, okay, we need to reverse engineer it. Meaning, how much time do you need for your art? How much capacity do you need for your art? How much energy do you need for your art? Okay, we actually have to answer that question in order to render the fear a moot point, okay? So those are the three questions I want you to start with. How much time do you need for your art? How much energy do you need for your art? How much capacity do you need for your art? Those are three flavors of the same question. I want you to think first about actual time on your calendar. Okay, so when you look at your Google Calendar, this is actually a really great exercise for you to do. It's like the dream week exercise. You're going to pull up your Google Calendar or your Apple Calendar or your passion planner, your physical notebook, your bullet journal, wherever you do your weekly planning. If you are still able to use a physical planner, I envy you so much. I used to be such a hard passion planner girly. I love stickers. I love markers. I'm a crafting person. Like, give me the analog, but my calendars and schedule have just gotten to a point where it was such a mess and so hard for me to manage my calendar in physical notebooks. So if that is you, cling to it for as long as you can. I'm so jealous. I live and die by my Google Calendar. So you're going to pull it up and you're going to create your dream week. So when you look at your schedule, like, when do you have rehearsals? When do you have auditions? Are you in a show? Are you on set? And then, like, craft your dream week, but then see what empty space is there. Do you still want empty space? Do you have things on the weekends and the evenings of your personal life, right? If you have a side job you really like, what's the amount of hours that would feel really good, regardless of, like, what the pay would shake out to be that week? Play with what a dream week would look like. And why I want you to do this is because even full-time artists are not spending 40 hours a week on their art. That is an insane amount of time to be spending on like one specific artistic medium. I want you to think about writers. Like if you are a writer, or if you know a writer, right? Or if you've read a lot about writers, that's 8 hours of writing a day every single week for 5 days of the week. That is crazy. To be able to have the stamina to write for 8 hours a day for 5 days a week, absolutely not. So when we think about, again, dismantling this fear of if I make more money or I get a job that's going to require more of me or more of my headspace, like I'm going to have less time for my art. Okay, well, you're not going to spend 40 hours a week on your art anyway. There's going to be other space and time for you to do other things. Not that you have to fill those up to the brim, but we're trying to play ball with your brain here. Like your brain is freaking out because it's afraid whatever else you're going to try and do is going to encroach on that creative time. You have to tell your brain, I'm going to hold these hours sacred for you. And look, nothing's going to touch them because we don't need all 40 hours of a 9-to-5 working week, right? Which you don't even have to structure your week like that, right? If you're a creative, if you're an artist, you get to do whatever the fuck you want, right? The reason I say that even full-time artists aren't doing their art full-time is because great art comes from real life. So you have to go live life outside of your artistry to be able to make good art. Okay, I know I have plenty of actors here on this podcast. And I know even if you aren't an actor, you have friends who are actors or you know of actors. I know that and I have been this person in the past, the actors who only act, who are not just like constantly in shows, but like when they're not in shows, they are in class and they are going to see theater and all of their friends are actors and that's their entire world. They're a very boring human being, right? Because there's nothing else that's fueling that. Actors don't come for me, okay? Because I have been there. I have been one of those and quickly realized I needed to go live a full life outside of my acting career and not like... I've been seeing a lot of like decentering men content from your life. We need to like decenter our artistry, not decenter our artistry, but like decenter the actual act of doing our art. We're going to be centering our artistry in our life by creating a full life around our artistry, right? But like decentering your self-tapes and your auditions and your performing in plays, right? So that's going to like, think about that for a minute. Okay? Of if you were truly a full-time artist, like put yourself 10 years in the future, you are living your dream life, you've got that dream calendar, and you have gotten to the point where you are able to have a full-time income on just your artistry. What does your week-to-week look like? Because if that means doing a show on Broadway, great, that's the evenings, right? And you're going to have to take care of yourself during the week. 8 shows a week is no fucking joke. Right? But that's not all you're going to be doing with your life. What else are you going to be doing? What else excites you? There's always going to be something else in addition to the literal act of you doing your art and your craft. The other example I want to give you is, have you noticed on TikTok or Instagram when you see influencers who like have become influencers via doing the thing that they love or that they are known for, right? So like, I've seen influencers who became really popular and went viral while they had a 9 to 5 because they were doing 9 to 5 content. Or artists who like created very specific pieces of art outside of their job and like made content about it. But then you see these people and then they become full-time influencers and content creators. Nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. But there are some that you see go full content creation influencer mode and they've lost the thing that made them interesting, right? Not that a 9 to 5 makes you interesting, but content creation when there's no life to pull from, influencing when there's no life to pull from, other things that are going on, becomes really boring content, okay? Also, influencers, content creators, don't come for me. I'm right there with you on the internet, right? Like, I have gone through similar things. So, this is to, again, poke holes in that fear that your brain is throwing at you of like, if I do other things, or if I add on more hours, or if one of the common things is like, if I get a job that pays me really well to the point of like more than financial security, that automatically equals me having to work so hard and it being such a hard job. Also, if you hear our washer dryer, please ignore it. It's like a when she starts on her like spin cycle. I hope that's not too loud in the background. Okay, now it's distracting me. Okay, the washer is almost done. She stopped spinning like a crate. She's done. So what I was saying, where was I? Yes, the fear around like, oh, if I make a comfortable living wage, then that's going to require a lot of hustle and grit, and it's going to completely drain my motivation and capacity. And what I'd say to that is like, how much motivation do you currently have? Because motivation doesn't just get created when you have time in your calendar. Sure, sometimes. I'm going to get to the nuance of like space and time in your calendar in a second. But be brutally honest with yourself. Like, the time and space that you do have on your calendar right now, how much are you actually utilizing that for your creative and artistic work? Like, be brutally honest about your scrolling and your Netflix time. Okay? You have to cultivate the desire to do your art and give yourself space and time to do your art with what you've got going on right now. Like, I know so many people just feel so busy and at full capacity right now. And so what I'd say to that is like, you're already busy and at capacity. Okay? So removing things from your calendar, all that is going to do is create more financial stress that you're going to need to numb out from, and you're not going to have any extra artistic capacity, okay? Like, artists, we need to be able to still create even when we are in our busiest, craziest seasons. So audit what's happening right now. This is like the second exercise. So you've done your dream Google Calendar week. Second exercise is audit what's currently going on in your weeks, okay? Not just like your work shifts and the time you're at auditions or rehearsing or working on the project you're producing or writing or whatever, but also like, what are you filling the rest of your time with? How much are you Netflixing? How much are you scrolling? Whatever it is that you fill in the blanks with. And do you like that? Does that feel good to you? When I did one of these audits last year, obviously phone and screen time and scrolling was one of the big things that came up, as well as like TV and Netflix. So one of the things that came from that is we actually put our TV behind our couch, and so it wasn't an easily accessible thing anymore. I also have this box that sits under my desk. If you're on YouTube, you can see it. I created this box, and this is the box that my phone goes in pretty much all day, except for when I need to get it. And it's like annoying enough to have to bend down and like open this box to be able to get it, that it's helped curb that. So that's one of like the small things that came out about it. So all of you, that's what I want you to get honest with yourself about. Because if instead of scrolling, you just sat in silent time and you weren't allowed to touch your phone, it's interesting what gets bred out of boredom, right? Because you're only going to be able to sit in silence for so long before you're drawn to like create something or do something. That's not media consumption. Okay. One of Julia Cameron's exercises inside of the Artist Way is a media deprivation week, which includes reading, which is also a really interesting thing because I am now, again, a huge reader. I was a huge reader when I was younger. I've definitely gotten back into reading over the past couple of years. And it just becomes a new form of like filling time sometimes. And listen, reading's amazing, right? But implementing a media deprivation week to see how much of your time was actually like, you'll get itchy, y'all. It's a very fascinating exercise. So what I was saying about boredom is you're only going to be able to sit in one space doing nothing for 20 minutes before you start craving creating something. And it doesn't mean you're going to create something good. It just means you might start like cutting and pasting the magazine you have lying around into some like garbage piece of art that you end up throwing away, but it's because you're bored and you start getting that urge to create. Like that's what comes out of boredom. All right. So going back to the calendar space thing and doing the audit of what's currently going on in your life, one of the things that will probably come up is scrolling in media. But I also want you to see like what's the balance of what's going on in your calendar. So something I noticed last year when I did this is that my calendar was really heavily weighted on my Not Starving Artist, like business and coaching side of my calendar. And I had very little in my acting and my personal life that was going on. And I've color coded my Google Calendar so I can literally look visually and see what is the balance of what's going on in my life. And what I realized was Not Starving Artist is green, of course, because money. Theater and acting, that's purple. And then my personal life is blue and orange. And so I want to see a beautiful 33 split between green, purple, and blue and orange. And when it was heavily weighted in the green side, where it was probably about 70% green, which was great, obviously. Like I love working on my business. I love being here at Not Starving Artist. But that fear for me of, oh my God, I don't have time for my art. Like when I did the audit, I was like, right, because I'm literally not holding space to be able to do my art. And not just do my art, but then also having empty space on my calendar to be bored and for my creativity to come out and to like figure out what kind of projects I do want to be doing, like giving my brain open space, right? So when I did that audit, I was like, okay, so it was actually less than for me about removing hours off of my calendar from my work, but it was about restructuring my calendar, right? And I'm just going to go into my personal examples here, and then I'm going to talk through how you can do this as well. But for me, one of the things that was starting to freak me out is that I wouldn't be able to take an audition any day of the week. Like there were certain days of the week that were so packed that if an EPA came up or I got a last minute self-tape request, I wouldn't be able to do it because I had packed myself so full. So I was like, okay, in this audit, what I realized was I can only schedule things half days, right? So that affected my coaching calendar availability. So I have like certain mornings and certain afternoons, and that those are the only times I take coaching calls, so that if an audition comes up on a Tuesday, I know I can always take an audition on Tuesday afternoon, right? And then I have certain days that I've kept completely open. So Thursdays and Fridays, I don't ever take calls. On the rare instance, I'll take a call on a Thursday, but I leave those days open so that if I want to have like a full actor CEO day where I'm like doing self-tapes and reading scripts, like I can do that. If I want to have a day where I'm just like crafting all day or taking a super long walk in the sunshine, like whatever I need, these are days where I'll go out on adventures or I'll get errands done so that my weekends actually feel like weekends, right? And I don't feel like I'm still working on the weekends. So there was a lot of stuff that I was able to fix by just rearranging my calendar and not really doing much with the hours. I mean, I removed a couple of hours, but those couple of hours weren't actually removed. Like I was just more systemized of when I was doing those hours so that I told my brain, look, every single day you can do your art. Every single day you have breath, you have space, okay? So that's what my calendar looks like now, and I am at a really great 33 split, and that feels really, really good. And now I don't have this fear that's popping up in my brain of like, oh no, if you make more money, you're not gonna have time for your art because because I can see that's not the case. So here's the thing. Like I said before, the motivation to do your artistic work doesn't magically appear when you have 5 extra hours of free time, right? Like even if you cut back your hours, or even if like you had a full day free, that doesn't automatically mean that you're gonna fill it with art. Like that is the additional work that you have to do, which is why I'm saying before you rearrange your calendar and before you start doing anything else, like what is the free time that you currently have, and are you utilizing it for your artistic work? And also when I say artistic work, just know that that doesn't mean you have to sit down and write your play, or you have to sit down and like get your art supplies out. This means whatever your like creative soul needs, are you giving your creative soul that, right? And your creative soul will never need a TikTok scroll. I'm just gonna say that. Your creative soul will never need an episode of Netflix. Like it literally will never need that. So are you giving it that time? Okay? Decide and block off right now in your calendar how much creative time you need and decide that it is sacred. And then once you do that, you are able to fill up the rest of your calendar with whatever the fuck else you want to, including a job that pays you good money, including a few extra hours of the job you already have, including putting in the work to start your own business if that's what you desire, right? If you decide that it is sacred and you prove to yourself over and over and over again that those hours aren't going to be touched, right? Even if they change every single week, you've decided that these chunks of time are sacred and you don't touch them, that fear will start to dissipate. So far we've talked mainly about keeping time for your art, still being able to create your art. Now I want to talk about the making more income, the other piece of like the thing that you are afraid is going to encroach on your art, and how to make sure that this thing that you want to add into your life for more financial security, stability, and abundance isn't going to do that. So the first thing is making sure that all the opportunities or the things that you're looking at adding in are going to be worth it. So what does that mean? That means that, well, I've said this before, but any extra job or extra hours or business or whatever, if you are living in a big city, if you are living in New York City or LA or pretty much any city at this point, like even I know like Raleigh, North Carolina, right, where I used to live near, is big city prices. So when you're thinking about city living, the minimum that you should be getting paid per hour is $25 an hour. I just saw a job posting that was for a virtual assistant that was $15 to $20 an hour. And I just need you to know that if you add something like that into your life as an artist, it will quickly drain your time, because monetarily that is not going to support you in the way it needs to support you. And it's going to keep you feeling like you're scraping by while it's taking up a lot of your time. So just know minimum $25 an hour. Okay. Second thing is making sure that the kind of work and job that you're looking at is actually going to work with your artistic lifestyle. So for me, like with my business, that's why I knew I don't take coaching calls every single day of the week anytime. I set the hours that I am able to take coaching calls, and that's what it is, because I know that I need the extra time and space, and also just for like organizational purposes, that's what needs to happen just as a business owner. But artistically, that's also what's needed. But when you're thinking about other kinds of jobs and how like shift switches work and how like understanding that and really asking yourself, am I going to be able to continue to do my art in the way I want to do it with this specific kind of job? Going back to the pay rate, is the pay rate going to actually allow you to live a comfortable lifestyle? If the answer is no, then don't waste your time. Don't waste your time. I have a training inside of the Cashed Up Creatives video portal called Make an Extra $500 a Month. And part of what this training does is it shows you very quickly if your financial situation requires just like a couple hundred extra dollars a month that you could make easily, or if it requires a lifestyle overhaul. Lifestyle overhaul sounds a bit dramatic for what it is, but it's like, okay, there's another podcast episode that's going to come out soon that's going to talk about how to manage money when you have like 6 different incomes. And so part of this training and part of what we're talking about here is making sure that all of them, like, you're getting clear on why you want the money that you want. Like, I don't want you just grabbing for money of like, yeah, let's just get any other job that we can so I can increase my money. It's like, no, how much more money do you want and why? And do you have the system in place to be able to manage that more money when it's coming in so that it actually feels like you've made a financial up level when you increase your income? Because if you don't have your money management on lock, all that extra income is just going to bleed out into the abyss of your checking account and it's going to get spent without feeling like it's having an effect, right? And if you're like, I just need more money, you might be looking to get then like, oh, if I can just get the $6 raise at my current job, that will be more money. But at the end of the day, when you look at your numbers overall, you actually need a totally different job because that job and the current lifestyle and where you're living literally cannot, the math does not math. You need a totally new, different kind of income, job, money situation in order to be able to live your artistic life. And when we get the math out, right, the solutions become very clear. Now, you might have thoughts and feelings about how to make those solutions actually materialize in your reality. Great. That's the position I want you in. That's the stuff I want you to be spending your mental energy on, right? Is working through those mindset blocks of how am I actually going to make this thing that I want to make in my life a reality? How am I going to make that happen? That's where I want your mental energy versus how can I get more money? Versus, how am I going to make rent this month? Versus, I just need to keep making my art and hoping I book that series regular and then all my financial problems will be solved, right? Like, those are not helpful things. So part of what we do inside of the Cashed Up Creatives online course, which you get monthly office hours with me for the rest of the year. When you sign up now, you get those free included with the one-time purchase of the online course. It's $247, I believe. And there's a payment plan as well. Inside of that curriculum, part of what you're doing is you're understanding those numbers. So you can figure out how much more you actually want and need to make. So you can decide that, get clear on that, and then create your sacred time for your art. And then you don't have to be afraid of making that more money because you know exactly how much more you want to make. And because you know exactly what in your calendar is set aside, like how much of your calendar space is now allocated to be able to making X amount more per month, per week, per whatever. Like, it's fun to play with the math of it because then the math shows you exactly where you can and should be putting your energy and you can disregard literally everything else. It actually creates more capacity for you, more space for you when you're not chasing every single possible option and opportunity for more money and more space and capacity, right? You're getting very clear. Also, this is what we do inside of one-on-one coaching. This is where we go really deep into those mindset blocks that are getting in the way. Like, I've worked with a lot of clients who are in this position of like, okay, the current survival jobs I have, they're barely paying the bills and I have a debt payoff goal and I'm trying to save and I'm trying to invest in my Roth IRA. So how do I do that? And what we immediately have to do is like, oh, all of these like jobs that you're applying for literally will not move the needle. If these are your goals, those are not needle moving. So here are the things that we need you to be focusing on. And then the mindset blocks that come there is like, do I actually have the skills for it? Is this going to take up my whole life and am I still going to have time for my art? And those sorts of things are where we spend time in our weekly coaching calls, getting to the root of the fear, doing exactly what we've been talking about in this episode, but like personalized for you. We're going to go through your calendar. We're going to figure out what that root fear is. We're going to look at your resume. I've gone through resumes of some of my previous clients, and although I'm not a professional resume builder, I can see very clearly if you're owning your worth and you're like, you know, why do I want to say pussyfooting? Am I allowed to say pussyfooting? I don't even know what that means. But you're like, yeah, like tiptoeing around what you actually believe about yourself and want to say. Like, we work through that, right? And we get you confident enough. Like, I had a client who, when we were doing this work together, she was able to confidently negotiate a higher pay raise in a job that was very flexible with her artistic career, that she was excited about, but she was able to negotiate that higher pay rate to make it worth her while because we had worked on her confidence about her skill set and what she brought to the team, more than just that bullshit thing that every actor is told, which is like, actors' skill sets are totally transferable. And it's like, yes, but nobody wants to hear that. Like, you actually have so many skill sets regardless of your acting career, right? And okay, as an actor, I hear myself saying it, and you are so valuable as an actor, and your skill sets as an actor are transferable to so many other kinds of jobs. But I think this is me just going on a bit of a tangent. There's a bit of an underselling of ourselves that happens when we tie our skill sets to our acting career. Because it's like, because I'm an actor, I have these skill sets, but these skill sets are actually the best for my acting career. They're just like, they just happen to be good for other things. No, you're really good at project management. You are really good at organization. You are really good at customer relations and vendor relations. You are really good at marketing, but like in all these different flavors. And every actor is going to be different because every actor is different. Okay, tangent over. But that's some of the stuff we do inside of one-on-one coaching calls. Like, we can go really deep like that. If you're interested in the online course or one-on-one money mentorship, both of those links are in the show notes. You can also find those links at notstarvingartist.com. The links are also in my Instagram bio at notstarvingartist. So your homework this week: you're going to go and you're going to make some time for your art. You're going to do an audit about your screen time and your media time. You're going to look at your current calendar. Do you like the split of what's going on in all the areas of your life? Are you living a fully fleshed out life outside of your artistic career? What amount of time do you need to keep sacred for your art? And then start playing with your numbers and start playing with, like, what is the dream week? And what would that require of me? If I knew that I could do and could make possible anything I wanted to make possible, like, what would that look like? And then you're going to start dreaming, and then you're going to start playing. And you're going to keep that artistic time sacred, especially if you're someone who's super busy and crazed right now. It is the most important that you set aside time this week to be creative, to show yourself that even no matter what is happening in your life, you're still going to treat your art as sacred. That's the only way to truly overcome this fear, alongside all of the other things I said. But that's the main thing. You have to prove to yourself that no matter what season of your life you're in, you're going to prioritize your creativity, not just the physical art that you make, but your creative energy and your creative heart. Have a great week, y'all. Thanks so much for tuning in. Come join me on Instagram for more on how to build a simple, sexy relationship with your money. My Instagram handle is @notstarvingartists. And if you want to dive deeper with me, head to the show notes to learn more about one-on-one coaching. If you love this episode, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend that you want to get rich with.